Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday, and I'm listening to one of our members. We're over here at the Cherry Farm Park in Arkansas. Tanner Smith, what a Cajun name that is, from Lake Charles, Louisiana. What is your favorite breakfast down there in Louisiana? And he said he likes red fish with a couple of poached eggs and hollandaise sauce on top of it. And that does sound good. Or a crawfish and shrimp etouffee omelet is delicious as always. Hey, a great show in store for you today. We're going to be joined here in a moment down in Beaufort, South Carolina, by a great one, Dave Tompkins, formerly the CEO up there that ran Churchill Downs at the Kentucky Derby. Going to get his insight on the Derby, the Masters, all things college football, basketball, baseball. We'll be joined by Loran Smith, patriarch of Georgia and Southern football, attending his 64th Masters Golf Classic over in Athens. He'll be joining us here. I talked to him just a few minutes ago. He was with us yesterday and will be with us again tomorrow. Hour number 2, Bo Carter checks in from Dallas, formerly from the Big 12 office and the Southwest Conference. He put that conference to bed, and now writer for the National Football Foundation and Baseball Writers Association of America. And hopefully William Halliday, Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, will join us and learn a thing or two from this panel of mental giants, I like to say, with the exception of myself. Delta can take it for me, but we're here with you 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, 50 hours or more content a week. And before I go to Dave, I got to say, yesterday, Audrey and I got to take the first tour because one of our great sponsors, a Rumble Boxing Gym / Midtown Memphis, is going to open Monday, April 17th, right there at Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis, the first of 3 locations. And Camp Lee is going to be opening in the Memphis market. Let me just say, I love to work out every day, love exercise. You got to be physically fit, mentally alert, and morally straight, or you ain't going to make it in life. They got that physical part, man. 24 boxing punching bags hanging from the ceiling. And these things they're not like your typical old Everlast canvas bags. These things are like hitting somebody. They've got 24 weight benches and all the dumbbells and everything. And in the middle, more training. You do these 45-minute workouts, station to station. They've got lockers. I mean, this place is so clean and so nice. You're going to love it. And they've got the discounted memberships now, the founders memberships, but you better do it before they open. And opening day is April 17th. So that is rumbleboxinggym.com / Midtown Memphis. And Dave, let's go to Dave Tompkins. Dave, what a time of year it is. I'm so jacked up right now, and I ain't even had coffee. But, you were in the Army, and thinking about that, like when Maury said, you graduated from West Point. They sent you to Europe to work on deploying Pershing missiles during what we called the Cold War. And and I traveled around Europe during those times, and I never felt safer. I'll just tell you that. And when we ran into American servicemen, whether it was on the mainland or on the coast, and something I learned from my parents as a young boy, as a young boy, because they did it, you always buy priests, military, and first, police and firemen and priests and military guys drinks until they can't stand anymore. We would see the guys coming in. We were in Monte Carlo one
Unfortunately,
time.
too many were bought for me, but
but they were on a destroyer parked there in Monte Carlo, and they came in. And this was the summer of 1986, and we had the deal with Libya and all.
There.
You've never felt safer anywhere. I've traveled to 26 countries in the world when you see American servicemen and women who are deployed. And I got lost. I had to get some money wired immediately. Went to the U.S. Embassy and Via Vittorio Vincenzo in Rome, and the Marines were there. There were armored personnel carriers and tanks around the front of it. I got in there. They checked my ID. Everything was good. The guy pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, dude, what are you doing tonight? We're having a keg party." I mean, they have fun. They have a life, but you feel so safe. So I always like to thank you for what you do. I say did it. I ran into a man getting gas yesterday. He was having trouble sliding the card on these newfangled deals. And I looked at the back of his vehicle, and said U.S. Naval Academy. And I said, "You go to the Naval Academy, sir?" And he goes, "Yes, sir." 90 years old, played football at the academy.
Oh, wow.
And looking great. And he was about to go on a trip to Nashville. And I mean, I cannot say enough good things. It is Good Friday, people. One of the most important days on our calendar. Sunday is Easter. We got a lot going on. And like I said, I'm fired up because I've got some really smart people on here to do the show. But Dave, you love the Masters. You know, you were at the Kentucky Derby for a long time. So I'm going to hand the ball off to you and get out of the way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, first off, to the time in Germany, you know, and you think about, you start with why and what's the why.
Yeah.
My first big trip there was to Berlin, and we were. This is when the wall was still up, and I had a bunch of buddies that were stationed there, and we partied hard. But we went over into East Berlin. Yeah. And it took about 4 seconds to be in East Berlin to understand the why and what we're doing and why we're serving. And then to go to Berlin so many times, you know, in the latter years after the wall has fallen, and East Berlin is the best part of town, and it just that one city really, you know, would tell you why you're doing what you're doing. So
oh yeah.
Thanks for the love on that. Yeah, it was probably the funnest 3 years of my life was serving in Germany. But the funnest week of my life, the two funnest weeks of my life are Masters Week and Derby Week. And you might notice that my backdrop's a little different today. I'm actually in Sarasota, Florida, visiting my dad. My dad, you know, taught me the game of golf when I was 4 years old. I'm left-handed, and I had left-handed clubs, and he didn't want to, you know, keep paying for left-handed clubs, which were more expensive then. So he taught me to play right-handed. So now I play right-handed, and we played, you know, constantly every year up until about 2 or 3 years ago. My dad's 86. So I come every year to Sarasota to watch the Masters with him, and we had a great afternoon yesterday. A little dicey today with the weather and tomorrow, so we might have our first Tuesday finish. You never know, but hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate a little bit, and we can get some golf in a little bit today and tomorrow. What a leaderboard! Oh, we can talk on and on about that. You got, you know, 9 of the 18 live players are under par. That's a story in the making. Obviously, Brooks Koepka. You know, Phil Mickelson and losing the 40 pounds that he lost, wearing his team logo, his live team logo. That's going to be fun. So it's just great stuff. And then, hey, we're 29 days to Derby.
Yeah. And you're right about the so much is happening this time of year. Spring practice, college football, college baseball. We just wrapped up the Final Four Monday night. And, you know, Loran Smith will be joining us here in just a second from Augusta. He's actually had to run back up to Athens, where he lives. He's from Wrightsville, Georgia, and home of Herschel Walker. By the way, Loran is the one who was at a sports banquet when Herschel was a junior, and they said, "Loran, you need to meet this young man down here at the end of the table. He's a hell of a football player, and he's big, and he's really fast." That was Herschel Walker, and Loran met Herschel and went back and told Coach Dooley and Matt Cavanaugh and all the coaches at Georgia, and they said, "Wrightsville, Georgia, they don't even have a stoplight there." And they said, "Well, you're gonna hear about this young man." 2 weeks later, front page of the sports section, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Wrightsville Jr. runs 9.5500. Herschel Walker, the legend. But here he is. You know, Loran Smith, you could say Loran Smith was like Dewey Phillips, red hot and blue, WHBQ, Sports 56 in Memphis, played the first ever Elvis record. Loran, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And I've got Dave Tompkins, who is a Masters junkie down in Sarasota, watching the Masters with his 86-year-old dad, keeping on a family tradition. And Dave, this is Loran's 64th consecutive Masters. So history, tradition, and heroes. Tradition never graduates. You can't get better than what I got here. Loran, let's talk some golf.
What was the first one you attended at 57 or 56?
No, the first, let's say 60 was my first. It's actually, I think, 63. But
Nicklaus's first victory.
No, I I went and saw Arnold Palmer win in 1960, and I haven't missed one since.
Oh, wow.
So that would make it 63.
Yeah, so he in 60 he finished the last 3 holes 3-3-3 to beat Ken Venturi.
No,
I'm a total savant on the Masters, so I'll shut up. But
as I remember, he birdied the last two holes, 17 and 18, to win, and that was quite exciting. I couldn't believe where I was, just the golf course and all that serenity and all that magnificent surroundings. The greatest flora there ever was, I think. And it was just a marvelous experience. And I decided, then I'd try to take up golf. I knew it was too late for me to get in the Masters, but I sure did enjoy going out and playing golf after that. And having no idea at that time that I'd ever be able to play Augusta, which I was fortunate to get to do a few times.
wow.
And that was a wonderful experience. So everything about the Masters is wonderful. You can't find anything negative, or I can't. And I guess if you could pick at anything, somebody might find something wrong with it. But it's just so it just overwhelms, and it overwhelms today. I know I walked on the course Tuesday, and I just was so excited to be back. And, if you ever drive down Magnolia Lane, you feel like you're having one of the great experiences there is, even if you're just going there for dinner or going there for around the golf. You get to drive down Magnolia Lane, and that's just it's a fabulous experience.
It is.
Wow.
And along what Dave was talking about, you go back, we think about in the days when Sports Illustrated and we waited for the mail to arrive with the stories about the great events. And Dave, you with the Kentucky Derby and just the tradition and the memories of that's what makes the Masters. I don't think it's like any other golf tournament because of it's everything we love in the South about college football, the tailgate, but it's all the relationships of the people, Loran. I mean, the people that you've met over the years. And you talked about going with Gary Player to his ranch in South Africa and memories like that. You've written a number of books on there, but I'm with you. I know my friends Glenn and Kirby Floyd. They're going to be looking for you. I said you got to meet Loran Smith. He is one of the pieces of living history that makes the Masters so special. But Dave, jump in here because I know you are a Masters savant.
Well,
and, my dad calls me an idiot savant all the time.
Never going to compete with Mr. Smith on the memories and having been there. I've been on property a handful of times, but nothing on the order of Mr. Smith. But I think to Loran's point about the 1960 Masters and that first memory and Arnold Palmer, I think we all have our first memory of the Masters, and that's the really indelible memory, and it's a memory of a lifetime, and it's a memory of growing up. I think my memory is the 1972 Masters that Jack Nicklaus won, and then would win the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and then get beat by Lee Trevino, would chip in the British Open to ruin the Grand Slam hope. But at that point, I became an avid, golf fan and idolized, Jack Nicklaus, and still do. And, to see him on Thursday, and the ceremonial tee shot yesterday morning, it still brings tears to my eyes. Mr. Smith is right. There's nothing wrong about the Masters. And Neil Pilson, who was president of CBS Sports in the 80s and early 90s, I worked with him a little bit at Churchill Downs, and he said there's really three events that stand out in the world, in the sporting world, that are sort of bigger than the events themselves, and that is the Masters, Wimbledon, and the Kentucky Derby. And I was very, very flattered to be included in that incredible threesome.
Well, I sort of think the two classiest events in the U.S. are the Masters and the Kentucky Derby. Now, the other events like the Indy 500, they have their place in sports, but it's just a lot of roaring and a lot of noise. But it is an exciting race, and I was happy to see it. But I think the classiest events would be what you just said, Wimbledon, the Kentucky Derby, and the Masters. Those three, you just can't beat the tradition that is there.
And it's obviously it's a competition of in Wimbledon it's men and women, and sometimes in the derbies there've been some fillies that have run, and more recently women jockeys. But I think the events themselves appeal as much to women as they do to men, and I think that's special, and it's beyond the golf. It's the hospitality. It's the food. It's the decor. What it looks like on TV. On TV, the Masters looks different than any other golf tournament that's televised. Obviously, on site, it's the most beautiful place on earth. But everything about it is different and so intentional. I don't know. It's just it's wonderful. Even today, if it rains and we get coverage in the rain, it still looks beautiful when it's raining.
Well, you don't want to get wet when there's any competition. I mean, wind and water are the bane of all sporting events. But the Masters just has a uniqueness about it, and first of all, Bobby Jones found a most beautiful piece of property. It was a nursery at one time.
Nursery, yep.
And at one time, it was an indigo plantation. And I'm just so happy that Bobby Jones found it before some developer, because that is just really a fantastic
absolutely
piece of property, and you can't.
And you hold those thoughts for just. We're going to take a quick break because I want to hear about it, because we actually had that discussion last night about Capital City Golf Club in Atlanta, and Bobby Jones' footprint is incredible. We're going to be right back. Loran Smith, Dave Tompkins.
And Done, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Loran Smith, Dave Tompkins. And Loran, you were rolling right before the break, so let's pick back up to the page we were left off.
Well, we're talking about the beauty of the pure beauty of the Augusta National Golf Course. It was a nursery years ago, but it's just a wonderful piece of property. And I made the remark that I'm glad Bobby Jones found it before a real estate developer could foresee putting in palatial homes there. And that's a great thing about the Masters. There are no homes on the golf course. One was built off the fairway of the first tee, years ago, and the family, and it was the owner of the home was a member of Augusta, but Cliff Roberts, he ruled the day that that took place. And so finally they worked it out to where they could tear that. They got possession of the property. I think they got title to the property one day, and then they tore the home down the next. That would be a Cliff Roberts, decision, quick and acute. So you just don't see anything. And I know one year I went over and I walked the course during a practice round with Jack Nicklaus, and I said, "What was your first impression of Augusta?" He says, "The enormity of it. It's just unbelievable." So you can't build a golf course, and even Pebble Beach, has homes on the fairways. You just can't build a course today, and you can get all the architects together and they can come up with the most fantastic design, but to finance it, you got to have a sort of a real estate connection to enable you to pull it off. But you never get tired of walking the grounds. You get tired. You don't get tired of the experience and the scene.
Well,
So true.
The brilliance of Bobby Jones and the people, that's what makes that golf course so different. I think I never really thought about it. There's not homes just encroaching on it. Not that that's a terrible thing, but the fact that they don't have it at Augusta, Loran and Dave, is another thing that separates it from the pack.
I think there's, I'm surprised a leading business school like a Harvard or a Stanford hasn't done a case study on Augusta National, because how it stood the test of time, going back to, I guess, 1930 or so when it was first conceived, and the founding team of Bobby Jones and Clifford Roberts, two very, very different personalities. If I believe what I read and all the storytelling that's, ensued over the years about the two of them, and, resolute decisions about every element of Augusta National that has passed through the generations of the chairman, up to Fred Ridley today. And yet they also embrace the future of technology and everything, but all the traditions still remain. It's as I love it because of it's the first major. It's a golf tournament. It's arguably the best golf course in the world. But I love it even more for just everything it stands about. Gosh, everything. I mean, it's a whole week to just be immersed in just complete excellence, in my opinion.
Well, you can't find anything wrong, as we said earlier in the show. The life expectancy of a spent cigarette is about 10 minutes, 3 minutes probably.
As is your life expectancy if you're caught with a cell phone.
And it's just amazing at how kempt the grounds are. Now they have housing on the property, but they're up around the clubhouse. They're not out on the golf course.
Yeah,
and they're always trying to make it better.
Yep.
They don't just sit down and say we don't need to do anything else. They take the position: is there anything else we can do to make the tournament and the golf course better? And they've been able to pull that off. Of course, I take a great amount of pride in the fact that the guy who started the expansion of the footprint was Billy Payne, old Georgia football player who was chairman before the current chairman, Fred Ridley. Billy, he foresaw the day that there would be encroachment for profit, and he didn't like that. So I don't know how long ago it started. And you mentioned Harvard doing a case study. That's one thing Augusta don't want is publicity.
Right. I know. I work with startups and founding teams are so important. And you just think about at one point in 1930, Augusta National was a startup, and it wasn't even called the Masters Inn. It was, I guess the first tournament was in 34, the Augusta National Invitation, but It was a startup. And now all these years later, It stood the test of time, and a great succession plan. How Billy Payne became the chairman, and now Fred Ridley. It's a marvel to watch. And I know they don't want publicity, but it's just a marvel to watch them do what they do.
Well, they really they underscore class and integrity in everything they do. And, it's not necessarily a rich man's club. There are a lot of rich men in it, but there are a lot of local members. Yep. Cliff Roberts said that in order to maintain the club, you needed a nice group of local members. So they're not all rich, but they all have to play a decent game of golf, and they all have to come and be willing to work during the week of the tour. Every member I've ever known has something where they have an assignment. If it's setting the pins, or if it's mowing the grass, there's a big emphasis on committee assignments.
And there, Mr. Jones and his the importance of amateurs, and this year with Sam Bennett shooting four under, he was on his way to a 59 when he birdied the first hole and eagled the second hole, and was able to hold the round together and shoot a 68, which is I think just phenomenal. I'm really hoping he can make some noise this weekend, as the play continues.
Wouldn't Bobby Jones have loved to be here now to see that kid play like he played, and hoping, as you just said, that he can keep it going for 3 more days? He certainly was. Showed a lot of cleverness on the golf course, and Bobby Jones would really like the way he handled himself, making the shots, and then, boy, his press conferences were really sort of spectacular.
Yeah.
Loran, one of the things you talked about, the members all have to participate at the tournament, and that's a standard that I use. I ask people all the time about teams getting ready, whether it's football, basketball, track, swimming, business plans, whatever. I go, do you think they show up 2 weeks before the Masters and start saying, guys, we got to cut the grass and put some fertilizer on those putting greens and all? That's a 24/7, 365-day a year labor of love. And you just hit on it, and it's the members. So it's like they are the shareholders. They have a vested stake in it, and they have a tremendous amount of pride because they've got equity in the club. And that's what I love, is that, there's pressure to change from all these other places, and I don't listen to all that stuff. I tune that out. I love how they have stood their ground, and they're going to do it their way, and that's why everybody, some of them can't even admit it, they all love the Masters. And you turn on the Golf Channel, and you've got so many people there, but when you walk around on the grounds, Loran, when you get back over there, Saturday and Sunday when you're there, is it just kind of surreal, all of the legends of the game and the relationships that year after year people will do anything to get back to Augusta?
Well, I think that there's an electrifying moment in all sports. It's like Indianapolis, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines in the World Series first game. The excitement leading up to the kickoff of the Super Bowl is just mind-tingling. Well, you sort of get that every day at Augusta. You're overcome with the serenity of the grounds and the golf course, and also you're overcome with the feeling that you're in a special place at a special time. So you can't find anything, but you can go anywhere on the golf course and find something to be pleased about.
Yeah. So, Dave, you've been there many times, and Loran, this is 64 straight. So far, the tournament yesterday had great weather, and Dave mentioned we may be going to a Monday, Tuesday finish potentially if we get a lot of bad weather. Short of lightning strikes, they will play through, won't they?
Well, they have always managed, and the thing is, if they get in today's round, have the advantage if the heavy rain that is forecast for Saturday, if it comes, then they will be able to. They could, they only have 44 players playing on Sunday, or the last two rounds, Saturday and Sunday. So that enables them. They could get in 36 holes if they had to. So they don't want to finish on Monday. Television doesn't want them to finish on Monday.
Right.
So and they want to conclude the tournament sometime Sunday. And if they can get out there and get through today, and it looks like the weather fairly favorable for that to happen, then I think they'll find a way to get it done before nightfall Sunday.
I could be wrong, and I probably am, but the last Monday finish I remember was 1983, Seve Ballesteros' second Masters win. But there could have been maybe one in between 1983 and now, but that's 40 years.
Yeah, that's the one before that was Tommy Aaron, so it has happened that you had to finish on Monday. Of course, in the old days, if you had a tie, you played off 36 holes. That made it a long week, long weekend.
Yeah. And Loran, of the golfers that are here, we talked yesterday about the LIV tournament, LIV. I think there are 18 LIV golfers there, and half of them finished under par on the first day. This is it's a debate. It's tradition. You got the Saudi National Trust Fund of $650 billion that's funding all this stuff. What about so far? Have you talked to any of the golfers like Phil Mickelson, who is, and some of the other ones that have gone over there, but their reverence for the Masters brings them back?
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to any of those guys. I really don't know. I know Mickelson a little bit, but I don't. I don't travel in circles. If I'm in an interview situation, it's a mass media gathering. It's not one-on-one.
Yeah.
Although Mickelson used to spend a lot of time here in Athens because he liked the music scene here, and he liked very much like the city and the town, and he enjoys college football.
Yeah.
But I think that he's I just don't. Well, I'm a traditionalist, and if people want to play in shorts, fine. But we talked about that the other day. I just don't understand that. And 54 holes. Well, I understand that. Greg Norman was great at 54 holes.
Probably the best golfer ever.
His problem was playing that last hole. And, I'm writing my column for tomorrow, and it's going to be about the year that Norman had a 6-stroke lead. And I didn't think about it too much at the time, but I saw Faldo take an extraordinary amount of time, almost to the point I was figuring he was going to get a penalty. He studied and he figured and he looked and he looked and he looked at that putt. I remember it being something like a 20-footer birdie putt at 17, and he made it. And you should have seen the exhilaration on his face. That was, I think he smiled more there than he did when he won the tournament. Now, his angle was, if he birdied 17, he knew he was going to be paired with Greg Norman in the final round.
Yeah.
Gosh, if you're into watching, catastrophic accidents, rewatch the final round of the 1996 Masters. That is, it all on 9 when he didn't hit it far enough and he rolls down to the bottom of the hill. And his Norman's caddy's talking to him and just trying to like talk him off the ledge and just couldn't do it. And putting the water on 12. It's but I guess now I would watch it with a sense of humor, given everything that's happened in the last year.
Yeah.
Well, I think that he really I don't know what it was, but if you remember a couple of years before, maybe 2 or 3 years before, or couldn't even been a year before, I don't remember the year now, they got paired at the British Open, and Faldo just worked him over. My goodness, Norman couldn't draw the club back, and I don't know why that bothered him so much, but it really did. And I can remember Peter de Bruyne, who wrote for the Manchester Guardian, going up to Norman after the third round and tweaking his cheek, saying, "Gregor, even you can't blow this one."
Lauren, hold that thought. We got to take a quick break. This is incredible stuff. Dave Tompkins, Loran Smith, Rob Browne here on Friday Sidelines. Back in just a few seconds.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, Lauren, if just a couple of more minutes, I know you've got to get going to a meeting. So just tell us, and we'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to having you back tomorrow on Saturday as well. But the weather is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. But you say you'll be down to 44 on Sunday, and something tells me they'll be able to get it in. No matter what.
The weekend. Yeah, the weekend they play. I think they're 44 players, and they play twosomes on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, so they can get around pretty quick. So if they have to play 36 holes on Sunday, if the rain is that bad, then they can pull it off. So I'm not sure how much that that today's round is going to help them in finishing it. And I think they started early again this morning, and they want to make that cut today, and then that gives them the advantage of playing 36 Sunday if they have to.
Yeah, Dave. You talk about a Monday and Tuesday. That would be it. I love the efficiency of the Masters, just the way they will get it done. Again. That's the members have a vested stake, ownership. They're like stockholders of a publicly traded corporation.
Yeah, back to the Masters, Wimbledon, and the Kentucky Derby. I think that's another thing they all have in common is just the incredible support from the shareholders, the stakeholders, the volunteers, and I mean we would at the Derby. It would rain all day on Oaks Day, and we had to have the track in dry conditions for the Derby. And the staff would literally work all night. I mean, they would not sleep, and that's the same. Obviously, the same level of commitment that they have at Augusta National, and the very, almost international volunteer network that they have for the tournament. And so I'll be proven wrong. It'll finish on Sunday, and which is what we all want. Easter Sunday. That's always a special, Masters, and lots of memories of me, as a kid, playing hooky on the Easter egg hunt, and then coming in to watch. Back then, it was Vin Scully in the booth calling the Masters. I'm remembering. I think it was the year Floyd broke the record at 76, and I got in trouble with my family because I was supposed to be Easter egg hunting, but no way I was going to miss the Masters.
No. Loran, Dave's got his priorities right.
Oh yeah, I would say.
Loran, look,
but the Masters is that alluring. I didn't know about it growing up. Literally, maybe 2 hours away, 2.5 anyway. I didn't really know much about it. Golf, I grew up on a farm in the country. We didn't know anything about golf, and I was fascinated though once I got connected, and I wanted to play all the time. I wasn't very proficient, but I sure did enjoy swinging away.
Yeah. Well, Loran, look, man, we're looking forward to getting back with you again tomorrow. I just love the tradition part of everything in sports, and it takes people to make it happen, like you and everybody there. And I know if Kirby and Glenn Floyd get to meet you, they're going to they're going to get a picture. They got to meet. I said, he is the Masters. So anyway, Loran, we will talk to you later today and again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. But thanks so much for taking time to join us on here today. We appreciate it very much.
What a treat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All the best.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I tell you what, Dave, Loran, has been the sideline reporter for Georgia football since 1972.
Wow.
He was there at Georgia in a special time when Francis Tarkenton was the quarterback.
Yep.
Patrick Fain Dye from Blythe, Georgia, Richmond Academy. Grew up down there, farming with his family, and his older brothers, Nat and Wayne, went to Georgia. And Coach Dye used to sell watermelons out of a little red wagon on the side of the road. He used to say, watermelon, red to the Rhine. If you're going to buy one of mine. I absolutely love it. But God, Loran is, he had to go back.
A gem. Wow. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me,
well, look,
Zoom room for 30 minutes.
Well, join with us again tomorrow. He's going to be back on with us because I know what you're talking about. A savant. My dad has for years said, "Boy, you're an idiot savant." He goes, "Got a vast warehouse of useless knowledge in that head. Convert that to money." And I'm like, "Okay."
Well, that's the problem. The conversion factor is not that strong. But and it's crowded out a lot of otherwise useful information that would have helped me over the years. But nonetheless, I can name every Masters champion back to I think Jackie Burke in '56. I can start there and take you to Scotty Scheffler.
That's what we love about it, and the people we have on this show, like you, okay, Loran Smith, your reverence for the tradition of what matters, and you think about this. Me personally, you having served in the Army, hell, everybody on either side of my family was in the military except me. I should have gone to VMI like my grandfather and his father and great-great-grandfather. One went to West Point. But I think about when I'm in Lexington, Virginia, on that ground, and the VMI band, the cadets, and the band plays, and my mother went to school in Hollins College, and my two sisters did in Roanoke, Virginia. She used to go up there on Thursday or Friday afternoons and watch the band practice, and they would play, and it just, you got to strain your shoulders when you go in there to the barracks at VMI in the building of the College of Science and Mathematics. You have to memorize that inscription. I just know this, our mutual friend, Maury Gaston. I can't say enough good things about it because he made us learn whether in Sigma Nu, everything about every member of that fraternity, their hometown, their name. I can tell you, Phil Thompson was from Huntsville, Alabama, the watercress capital of the world, had a dog named Mr. Happy. And Phil is now a great attorney in Auburn. And I still talk to him and text him every day. So bottom line, the people you
and
go
let's
through
use
the
this
toughest
occasion
times with.
to recognize that Maury this summer is going to become
Regent.
the top dog. I don't know if the chairman or the CEO are basically in charge of all Sigma Nu.
Oh yeah, and he's definitely earned it. Guys like him and John Hearn and Robert Durham and just phenomenal people. But it takes people, like you say, to make the Masters happen. And I've got friends that are over there right now. They go every year for about 10 days and
Wow.
stay there. And their father's a member, and it's an incredible place. And I think that's why that connection of the reverence of tradition transcends all other golf tournaments, the connection to college football in the South, and just the way we are. And there's people from all over the country and all over the world that go there. But I just love the fact you can't be on a cell phone. You can't be doing all that stuff. And if you don't like it, guess what? Go do something else.
Well, something, in my opinion, I mean, we all have political views. We're all on, one side of the aisle or the other. We all have, views about social issues and cultural issues and racial issues, and and as we should. That's one of the wonderments of a free society, in my opinion. Yeah. But what's really cool about the experience of walking into Augusta National without your cell phone, without Twitter feeds, without any of that, and you're just in nature. And you're seeing famous people that you see on television. You're seeing Mr. Nicholas. You're seeing back some years ago, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Player, and all the present clutter of society issues just fades away. And you're on this beautiful golf course, and you're respecting the traditions. You're being quiet when you're supposed to be quiet. You're not running. You're dressed, for a golf event, but you're dressed well. You're wearing the golf shirt you're most proud of, and you're behaving and you're respecting the traditions of the game, and the tournament. And and everything that happens outside the gates is completely irrelevant to you for those wondrous hours you're there. And I don't think there's any experience quite like it in the world. And I would even, say even over my dear Kentucky Derby.
Well, and you're right. It's just like I go back to as a kid, how many times did my parents and my mother, especially, she's just unbelievable. But you go into Lexington to VMI, that the connection that I have there, and the tougher the circumstances and the more hell you go through with a group of people, the closer you're going to be for the rest of your life. And I think sometimes people mistakenly will say, this game's going to be a war and all. Well, I go back to Coach Jordan, Shug Jordan at Auburn. You look at his war record. Okay. He fought Rommel in North Africa in World War II.
Did not know that.
Landed at Sicily, landed June 6th, 1944, Omaha Beach.
Wow.
Utah.
Did not know that.
Was hit in the left shoulder by a fragment from a German 88 millimeter gun, and was on the beach as a combat engineer. And 4 days later wandered into a field hospital and had blood all over his shirt. And they said, Captain, you need to get some help. He said, well, that's what I came here for. And they said, when did that happen? He said, well, when we landed on the beach. And they said, well, you needed to get help. He goes, well, why didn't you come? And Coach Jordan said, well, sir, I'm from Selma, Alabama, and I'm a combat engineer, and I got a job to do. And that was to get a road so our boys could get up that hill and win this damn war. And they operated on him. And I think I read this. Rich Donnell wrote this great autobiography, helped it on Shug Jordan. And Shug said, I damn near bled to death on the operating table with the surgeon because he was from Mobile, Alabama, was an Auburn man, and started talking about the 1942 Auburn victory in Columbus, 27-13 over number 1 ranked Georgia. And
wow.
And Dave, even more so, Shug goes back home, and his wife, Miss Evelyn Jordan, drove across the country from they were living at that time still in Athens, drove out to Seattle, Tacoma, Fort Lewis, McChord. They were decommissioning his unit. And they asked, though, for volunteers to go down in the South Pacific Theater. And so Suge volunteered and went to Okinawa and fought there. Then he came. So Miss Jordan had to drive a brand new automobile they had purchased out there across the country by herself. And Ralph Jordan Jr. is a friend of mine and Maury's. And Ralph said, to the day my mother died, which was November of 2011, she was 99 years old. She never forgave the United States government for that, for having to drive across the country.
Gosh, you're telling me a story I never heard, and I maybe because I was an Alabama fan growing up, and we only heard about the legend of Coach Bryant, but that's amazing. I mean, to Italy, to Omaha Beach, and as we should, we know a lot more about the European theater and Omaha Beach and Normandy. The bloodiest fighting was in the Pacific Theater. And I mean, the Japanese, you talk about a tough out in a tournament. They defended those islands, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and they knew that if they lost Okinawa, that was pretty much the end of the war. And the fighting there was so fierce. And you think if you fought in Omaha Beach, you sort of checked your box on doing something, the big suck as we called it at West Point. But but then to go to Okinawa, wow, I didn't know that. That's I'm kind of tearing up here.
And I'll tell you, and what he did, let me tell you, it was amazing. And in the 25 years he coached at Auburn, Terry Henley and several of the players, they said he never once evoked his military record because he knew what the hell of war was like. But one time, the 1971 Auburn, Georgia game in Athens, Pat Sullivan and Auburn were undefeated late in the year, Georgia undefeated. They were in Athens, actually in Madison, I think, at the hotel all night long. The Georgia students were banging and honking horns to keep them up all night. They got there to Sanford Stadium back when the old railroad track was there and the trestle, and people would hang on and watch. There were people parachuting in to watch the game. You couldn't get a ticket. And in the locker room, Coach Jordan addressed the team. He said, men, I've never talked about what I've done, where I've been, but I will say this today. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil on that football field today, because I will be the biggest, baddest, meanest, toughest sumbitch in the whole damn valley. Let's go win that football game. And Auburn won 31-20. It's just 35-20. It was an incredible game. But and Dave, and I tell you, and I am intimidated by you because you are military. And my first marriage, my father-in-law, 26 years in the Army, lieutenant colonel. My father was in the Army. He got out, graduated from Auburn, and within 3 months they quit sending people to Korea, and he was mad about it because he was too young for World War II. But the bottom line is, we look at and we make comparisons of sports and combat and war, but in reality, and my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the Marine Corps, 3 in the reserve, 23 in combat, Somalia, Fallujah, everything. And I always like to tell people this. You go to his man cave, and his sister my wife sitting right next to me, my producer, my CFO, the brains behind Sidelines. You go in Kurt's man cave up in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's all volunteer, orange and white, but we'll excuse that.
Excuse that.
He's got his military memories and trophies. He has a Kevlar helmet on a bayonet. And I said, did they give that to you as recognition of 25 years of service, as the thank you, like a gold Rolex? And he said, nope. I go, well, how'd you get it? He goes, I just took it. And but never once, ever will you hear Kurt ever complain or talk about what he did. And I talked to my mother-in-law, I talked to Audrey. I go, how did you sleep at night? You pray, you get there. But we have the best people in the world in our military. And it goes by as Maury, Robert Durham, John Hearn, history, traditions, and heroes. That's the whole theme of Sidelines. But when we come back, I want you to talk about, we'll pick up on what I just said because we're going to a break. Talk about the Kentucky Derby, because this is just an electric time of the year.
Cool.
I mean, It is. I just, if you don't, remember the movie Full Metal Jacket? The BBC was interviewing all those American Marines. He goes, what do you think about? We
discuss Gunnery Sergeant Hartman every time I'm on, so absolutely.
Well, the BBC guy asked Cowboy, he goes, what do you think about Vietnam? He goes, what I think about Vietnam? Well, hell, I mean, they don't have horses in Vietnam. What kind of country doesn't have horses? I don't know. And I mean, so you got to love it. But we're going to be right back. Bo Carter will join us as well. Dave Tompkins, special I love having you on. Thank you so much. All of our listeners, Good Friday. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Dave Tompkins on with us from beautiful Sarasota, Florida. I'll tell you what, Dave, we're up here we were in Memphis yesterday, got back last night. We're over here at the farm, at the Cherry Farm in Lee Hall and Park in Arkansas. And you see the bottomland black lab behind me in the background. There's mounts. We got 37 mounts on the walls in here. It is cold. I mean, it's got to be 40, 45 up here. We were 87 Monday. That's how it is. It's how we roll up here. But Dave, the Kentucky Derby. I remember as a kid, my parents going to this one particular Derby party every year, and they'd get a glass specially made, and it had every Derby winner going back from the beginning. And that glass got taller and taller and taller over the years. But my parents are 88 and 94.
Okay.
And we live in Memphis, and so many of their friends growing up, in Germantown and out in the country, so many horses there. There's just, and my son, he doesn't like me telling you, he would call them nays when he was a little kid. But one thing about Memphis, it's we have a 4,500 acre park in the middle of the city called Shelby Farms, the largest inner city public, and it's got a herd of buffalo, 700 plus deer, turkeys, and they've got horses. You can ride horses, and the horse trails, they got a lot of horses. I don't know what it is, but when you see horses, there's something about them that's honest. It just, you think about how we built this country and all. I don't know what it is, but whether you're, I have a lot of friends who are serious about horses, but the Kentucky Derby you're right. It's one of those iconic events, and it is so big. And even if you're not a horseman, you don't ride a horse, it just pulls you in.
Yes. Well, thank you. And I just as a process, I had a meeting at the top of the hour with one of my startups, actually an Annapolis grad, but I've pushed it back 30 minutes. So I got 30 more minutes, and looking forward to love to be on. And this is a quick little from the last segment and about combat. And I would encourage folks, if they really want to understand what, the difference between combat and playing sports, it's an oldie but a goodie, but read the book Black Hawk Down about Somalia, because you mentioned Somalia and the Battle of Mogadishu. It's a very compelling book, and it's it's a gritty read. I mean, there's some stuff in there, but anyway, so for those that want to learn about life in combat, that's a great book to read. So yes, the Kentucky Derby and the tradition. For folks going for the first time, what I encourage them to do is to kind of walk in through the back door toward the front door. And so start back on the backside in the stables. And that's where you really see the soul of the Derby and the sport. I mean, these are people all the connections to the horses that are up at 3 a.m, working the horses out. You get up close with the horses, and just you really get a feel for the soul of what it's all about. Then as you walk toward the track and you look at the grandstand of the Kentucky Derby, that's really a picture of your life, and the phases of life that you go through. You start off in the infield. And so in the infield, you're a college kid or you're presumably of drinking age, probably not always of drinking age. And there you're partying, and that's what you do in the infield. And then, you get your first job out of college, and you can sit in what's, section 100. And as you work your way up the grandstand into the clubhouse, into the suites, into the, elite suites, that's basically your life in a nutshell. And I think that's what I think is particularly unique about the Kentucky Derby, is that you start with the soul of what it really is, which are the horses and the trainers and the jockeys. And then you go to your life and how you appreciate the Derby from the time that you're a teenager or in the infield, and then all the way into your 70s and 80s, and you're enjoying it at the top of basically near the rooftop.
Yeah. And Dave, you talked about this last year. Bo Carter's on with us right now. Bo is a native of the Quad Cities, Sheffield, Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals, and Florence, Alabama. Vanderbilt graduate, was former sports information director at Mississippi State, then went to the Southwest Conference office, Big 12 office, now a writer, a great writer for the National Football Foundation, and also Baseball Writers of America. This is Dave Tompkins, Bo.
Nice
former
to meet you.
CEO of the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs and over in Beaufort, South Carolina, but West Point
Close
graduate
enough.
from Mountain Brook, and so grew up an Alabama fan. So we had Loran Smith on earlier in the show from the Masters, and he'll be back on again tomorrow. And I got to tell you, just what you just said about the Kentucky Derby, going behind the scenes, and my kids when they were little, I have 2 boys and 1 girl, and now 2 girls because Audrey, I've got Mallory. They love horses, and I got them out there to my friends' horse stables, and I said, "You love horses?" And they said, "Yes, we love them." I said, "Here's a shovel. Get in there." That's when you find out how much you love horses. But Bo, Dave, so many years running the Kentucky Derby and all, and we were talking to Loran Smith. What a great time of year. What we'd love to do when Bo was on here, he also teaches journalism out there in Dallas, because we'll have William Halliday, our intern from the Auburn Plainsman, on. And I love to say, okay, write me a lead for the Kentucky Derby. Bo, this is it's just one of those incredible events, and it lasts just a few minutes, but it's you can't Leroy Neiman can't paint enough great paintings of it. I love it.
And Dave, I think we got some mutual friends, our old friend Charlie Fiss and Fred Gruen, some of the media people, the so-called media people. I think they just come up there and drink mint juleps the whole week. Sober up in the race.
I've mentioned this before on this show, but he was a Churchill Downs employee, but John Asher was the preeminent storyteller, and it was the tears to my eyes when Churchill Downs, after I left, did the right thing, and there's a statue of him now at the racetrack, and so well deserved, because you talk about so important to the Derby with his storytelling.
What a wonderful national, and it's a national treasure, and man, movies made about it. It's just the whole city of Louisville comes together for what actually it's a whole racing card. People don't realize that.
Exactly. It's race number 11.
After everything, which is a wonderful one. Even the Queen Elizabeth has even been there. So that tells you the importance of the Derby.
That was my first Derby, 2007. Won by Street Sense, Calvin Burrell. He was 19th position, starting the 3rd turn, and then got on the rail and just made an amazing, gutsy, courageous trip around the 4th turn and down the stretch and won. That was a fantastic. What a baptism for me in terms of the Derby.
Well, you know what? For both of y'all, the number of comparisons or parallels or alliterations that we make. The Derby, the back nine at Augusta. Coach Dye would always call Auburn's schedule at the end of the season, playing Florida and Georgia and Alabama. He'd go, well, we're going to call that Amen Corner. Amen Corner. Talking about the back nine at Augusta, because he grew up in Blythe, Georgia, near Augusta, but he didn't play golf. But, he would talk about, he would also say about the Kentucky Derby a lot. He'd say, well, I don't care where they pick us, like that old Kentucky Derby. Sooner or later, the horse that thinks he can will. And that's, but you think about the number of comparisons in life. The back nine at Augusta, sooner or later, the horse that thinks he can will. It's one time in a horse's life they get to run at the Derby, and they put those blinders on. And I use that comparison talking all the time. You got to put the blinders on. What's it like? I'll tell you something cool. Jim Tunney, regarded as the dean of NFL referees. Yep. My good friend Don Hudson, one of my mentors in the round table in my dad's lunch group on Saturdays and other days, introduced me to him 4 years ago. We've had him on the show 6 or 7 times. He was very close to John Madden. He lives in Pebble Beach, and his little cul-de-sac there was Don Shula, his very close friend, after he got out of officiating. Tom Brady. It's unbelievable. He lives on the Pebble Beach golf course, okay? Jim Tunney is an incredible speaker. His father, he grew up running the track in Hollywood, the horse track, and he said he was such a man of honor, and everybody wanted to go by and talk to him because he was working with the horses before the races. And even when I would go by there, he almost would act like he didn't know me to show absolute indifference and complete neutrality and that code of honor. Your honor is dearer than your life. And that's what I think is so incredibly special about the Derby, about y'all saw the fit they had about Koepka last night. Was there's some conversation with him and the caddy and all. I mean, they don't miss anything. They're like having Howard Sprague come in there and do an audit.
Howard Sprague. Wow. You talk about parallels and from one sport to another. And, the NCAA tournament just ended, and, I'm an Alabama basketball fan. And, we talked about how Alabama could, win by 25 and hit all their threes, but they can't win ugly. And the front runner for the Derby this year is the Kentucky horse by the name of Forte. And Forte's forte is that he can win ugly. And his last victory, he's won every major prep race that he has entered in up until now. And the last one he won was a Florida Derby last week. And it was an all-time ugly win. I mean, there's no way he should have won that race, and he won. And then fast forward 29 days and the 20-horse field, and you don't know what the weather's going to be like. But I think the folks that really know about horse racing, which I'm not, it was my business, but they're saying this horse can win ugly. So he's the favorite, which probably means don't bet on him because there's some other horse that believes he can win and a long shot will win. But there's an early pick.
Question for you from one of our listeners in Memphis, Jimmy Page. He said, ask Dave Tompkins, how did the jockey fall off the horse 2 or 3 years ago and survive? Great question. Jimmy Page on Beale Street.
Well, all the great jockeys, Calvin Burrell, Kent DeSormo, I mean, they've all fallen so many times, and that they get back up on the mount and do it again. And you think they'd have some sort of, if you will, PTSD and like, Burrell nearly killed himself, riding the rails so many times and falling off and breaking bones and stuff. And for some reason they don't. And that was one of the coolest things of living in Louisville, is just running into the jockeys. And these are amazing. They don't look like Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, they're tiny, but they are amazing athletes. I mean, the physical condition, the toughness, and they're all, it's a really tight fraternity. And so they're all really, I mean, of course there's some rivalries, but they're really good friends. It's a really tight fraternity and recently sorority. And yet when it's race time, I mean, they are so brutally competitive. But there's a sense of honor about them too. I mean, they're amazing people.
Yeah, they really are. Bo, what he's talking about, people remember the jockey falling off the horse. I mean, it's terrifying, but they've done that probably so many times in training and all that they, it's like dropping the baton in a relay in track and field. Just stay in your lane, man. Keep your head and keep your wits about you.
It's always fascinating. No, like you're saying, Rob, Dave, you've seen this. It's amazing to see the horse finish the race. I guess it's a natural instinct. They know to run to the start, to the finish line, whatever, too. But Dave, by the way, thank you for your service to the country.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Very good to see a West Point guy. And then Army West Point football should be maybe a bowl team this year, hopefully.
Yeah, it's we have a new offense going to the shotgun, going to throw it a little bit more. And we've got a pretty good core of folks coming back. We've got a brutal schedule. We play LSU in Baton Rouge, we play in Syracuse, play some teams that we probably shouldn't be playing. But I really believe in Coach Monken, and so I'm always bullish going into the season.
Hell, you know what? When that West Point team, when they go out on the field at LSU, they'll get as big a cheer as LSU will. I mean, I tell you, you bring Army to Auburn or Tuscaloosa or Baton Rouge in the South, they're going to get a standing ovation. I mean, I think that, but I love that you're going to the shotgun. Bobby Bowden was asked one time, he said, how Air Force and Navy and Army were running the wishbone. And they said, it takes incredible discipline. He goes, well, if discipline were everything, Army and Navy would be playing for the national championship every dadgum year. But
we damn near beat Auburn in the Independence Bowl back in 1996, I think. God. Yep.
Yeah, 32
first field
to
goal
29.
our guy missed all year, and it was.
Oh my God, I was watching it. I love to watch them play. You will never see any fighting, any trash talk. I mean, look, these guys that are on those teams, and my friend Tim Horton coaches running backs at the Air Force Academy. They call the training complex in Colorado Springs, and they call it the submarine, because you're just immersed in there. And you're in your own world, but the competitiveness, you talk about guys, you don't have to worry about them going into the portal, getting their feelings hurt. I love it. I've got to ask you another question, Dave, before we go to a break, about the Derby. How a horse can feel if the jockey and the people around him are scared, can he?
Yeah, they're very, very intuitive animals, as Gene Hackman pointed out in the movie Crimson Tide, and I didn't learn this until I got there, but they have a completely different routine with the horse on race day in terms of like when they feed them, how they treat the horse, and basically it's whether it's testosterone or estrogen. I mean, it's to really to get them super fired up to compete. And part of that is the jockey, showing absolutely no fear. And I mean, it kind of like flows between the jockey and the horse, and the horse knows, hours before the race that it's race day, and then because everything's different, and it's just all about, that's why the trainer is so important. Is just basically setting the conditions, and so that the horse knows that it's time to race. And when that gate opens, it's full speed ahead.
Hold those thoughts, because when we come back, we just got a few more minutes before you've got to go. I want to talk to you about that walk up to the starting line. Dave Tompkins, Bo Carter, Jimmy Page, Leonard Skinner, Eddie Haskell. Right back after this.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobson Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, Rob Browne back with Bo Carter, Dave Tompkins, Jimmy Page, the ghost of John Bonham, and Clarence Gatemouth Brown. Got a great lineup.
Eddie Haskell. Let's don't forget Eddie.
Ken Osmond passed away recently. We were watching Leave It to Beav on Me TV this morning. Leave It to Beav. You just gotta love Clarence Lumpy Rutherford. The guy was 24 in a junior in high school. Not the brightest bulb in the room. But, you think about Dave, and before you go, tell us on race day. I just know this. I'm big into the hunting dogs, the Mid-South Hunting Retriever Club, the Labrador Retrievers, and I've had a number of them. Lone Oaks General Forest rides again, Bowden, Lance. You'll love them. They are test-wise. You get on the grounds of an AKC hunt test, junior, senior, master, UKC, whatever. They know it's test day. So you try to train as much as you can in your training with the 300-yard marks, a triple with a delayed quad with a blind and a throw over, and they shoot, a live flyer at the line, everything they can in training. And you get to test day. If your dog breaks, you can have a controlled break. There's little things, but your things you might be doing in training, you're kicked off. Zero. You're out. You're gone. You could have traveled out across the country to Bend, Oregon, and paid for hotels and travel and all that stuff. You're gone. Race day, Kentucky Derby. Let's say old Mr. Ed's out there in the stables. I'm ready for the race. Let's describe.
Well, and I'll conclude on this point. And thank you so much again for having me. It's such a pleasure. So earlier in this, I talked about the Masters, Wimbledon, and Derby, and I said the Masters maybe gets 100 on the scale, and with Wimbledon and Derby a 99 in my opinion. But the hour before the Derby is the greatest hour in sports if you're there on site. I mean, that is the greatest hour in all of sports. And because, it is race day and the walkover and that's special for any race for a horse, but there's only one race that's the Kentucky Derby. And so the actual, if you will, march over is different for that race than it is for any other race. And so that's another part of the training for training the 20 Derby horses is, okay, now you're going to experience something you've never experienced before. You're going to come out of your barn. There's going to be a million, cameras, flashing pictures of you. There's going to be a lot of cell phones out taking pictures. You're going to do the walk that you normally do. But then when you go into the paddock, you're going to march around the paddock a bunch more times than you normally do because it's an entertainment event. And then you're going to go into your stalls in the paddock and you're going to wait and to wait and to wait. And that doesn't happen in the other races. And then you're going to come out and then you have to come out, turn right, toward the finish line, and then turn left, walk, while all 170,000 people sing a song called My Old Kentucky Home. And it's super loud. And that only happens for that one race. Is so special to be watching it and to be experiencing it and to be singing and crying and everything and the build up for the actual race. But it's something the horse has never experienced before. And I think that is a big factor in what will happen in the race. And then then they go into their stall, and it's time into the gates. And the gates, there's now 20 gates, not 9 gates, or and the gates at a different part of the track than it normally is. It's all so different for the horse and so special for the TV viewing audience, and then out of this world special for the folks that are at the track watching it live.
Yeah, look, Dave, I know you got to go into a meeting. This is the intern, William Halliday, freshman writing for the Auburn Plainsman from Memphis, and I've known his dad since kindergarten, Bubba Halliday, and Dave. William, Dave used to be in charge of the Kentucky Derby, Churchill Downs. And can you imagine if they were to send you up there, you're going to cover it. But I'll tell you a cool story, Dave. I'm going to make a recommendation. You probably know this. The vet school at Auburn, William, how many of the vets up in Kentucky for these thoroughbred horses were trained and educated.
Absolutely.
At the vet school out on Wire Road. That's a cool story that you need to do building up to the Derby. And I recommend, you go see my friend Greg Williams, the head equestrian coach at Auburn, who just won his 5th straight SEC championship in equestrian last week.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be and Greg will be going for national championship number 7 next weekend over in Ocala, Florida, where the soil, Dave, is that correct? The soil has got that limestone in it, and that's why Ocala is such a. You ever been to Ocala? I'm sure you have, but
it is horse country extraordinaire. It's in the same in terms of raising horses and breeding horses. I'm gonna get in trouble with my friends up in the Commonwealth, but it's in the same conversation with Kentucky.
Oh, Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com will be on with us tomorrow. Buddy will definitely give you an amen, brother. hey, Dave, join us again in the morning if you can.
Okay, cool.
Because Lauren's going to be back with us from Augusta, and let's have you on here again tomorrow. But I want to say again, thank you so much. And you're why America's the greatest country in the world. It's that make the difference. But man, I love that story about the Derby. The horse has never seen all that stuff, and you can't simulate it till you get there. Horses and dogs can't read their pedigrees, but their owners can. You still got to train them, don't you?
Absolutely. It really, that's my biggest learning there is just the how important the training element is. Trainers are Nick Saban's times 10. I mean, in terms of what they have to do.
Woo!
Now I'm really in trouble.
I love it. Dave, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Love it.
Happy Friday.
Dave. Hey, happy Good Friday to you, man. This is incredible time, man, that we're dealing with right now with what's going on. Audrey, the bottom line is, and I'm going to tell you right now, William, you got a chance to see Dave Tompkins on there talking about the Kentucky Derby and all. If you are writing a story, and Bo, if he was writing a story, it's the little things like the equestrian doctors, the vets out there at the vet school at Auburn. That's something, William, you could do and talk to. Hey, just go see Greg Williams. You wrote a good story about that SEC championship. Do that. I think that's a cool story. But Bo, I'll tell you, think about 120,000 plus. I think there's more than that there. A million people will tell you they're there every year. The nervousness, the anxiety level of the horse, the trainer, the jockeys, the owners. That question from Jimmy Page over in Memphis about 2 or 3 years ago when the jockey fell off the horse. It's a miracle they don't just get trampled to death. And the horse just finishes the race.
It's amazing. They just keep going. They're saddling on. And it's a big deal. William may have some friends do this. A lot of the college students, the SEC area, especially Vanderbilt and Tennessee, will just jump in the car on the morning and go try to whittle a spot in the infield. Somehow, I think some of the gatekeepers just sort of let them kind of ease on into the infield area or whatever too. So it's,
hey, I've got friends. I've got friends that did it. Wesley Duncan get on there with a 30 rack of Ham's beer, left the Greyhound bus station in Auburn and went to the Kentucky Derby one time and didn't even remember it. But it's an incredible atmosphere. It really is. Hey, let's switch gears. William, you just finished up the national championship, and I think you had 3 of the final 4 teams in your brackets, didn't you?
I don't think I did. I had UConn. I will say that.
I did too.
Yeah.
I had UConn to play Duke for the national championship in my sidelines.live bracket, and I had UConn to win, but I also had Texas A&M in my final 4 in that particular one. But it's like the gong show. All right, William, your takeaways from the final 4. What'd you learn this year about SEC basketball, Big 12 basketball, and Big East basketball? Let's, as Joe Dean would say, the legendary broadcaster, LSU man, SEC basketball. William, here's your assignment. When you talk to your dad today, say, Mr. Browne said something about a man named Joe Dean used to be on the SEC TV basketball games. He would say, a little string music from downtown Lexington, KY. And if a guy would dunk the ball, Joe Dean would go, a little stufferino. You got to ask your dad, Bubba, about that today, okay? That's your homework assignment, okay? Don't forget it. But what'd you learn from the Final Four this year, William?
I learned that Jim Nance is still a great game caller. He's one of the best of all time. I'm sad to see him go.
Yep.
Other thing is anybody in the NCAA basketball tournament can make it to the Final Four. We saw that this year. It doesn't have to be blue bloods. Now it'd be nice to be that just for ratings. We saw that. I think it was like the lowest viewed Final Four championship game, 14 million. One of those, I can't remember. But still, like it's great for college. I think it's good for college basketball that we have this. I don't know what the word for it is. I don't know, but like just different teams being able to make it. It's not blue bloods every year. I think it's good for college basketball, the one sport that smaller teams like UConn and San Diego State can get there. So I think it's good for college basketball. That's my takeaway.
William, going into the Final Four, UConn was tied with Kansas at number 6 all time with 4 national championships. They're now at number 5. They've moved up there with Indiana, with Duke. And then I think, let's see, number 6, North Carolina. Kentucky has 8. UCLA has 11. And they won 7 in a row from 67 to 73.
Yep.
So you got UCLA at 11, Kentucky number 2 at 8, North Carolina 7. I'm leaving somebody off with 6. But bottom line, UConn is now sitting there at they're tied at the number 5 spot. I'm going to read you the national championship. Okay, UCLA number 1 with 11. Kentucky number 2 with 8, North Carolina 3, I thought, with 6, and then Duke, Indiana, and UConn with 5 each, Kansas with 4, and Villanova with 3. So UConn, you got to say, is a blue blood, but Bo, along that line of thinking, I thought that shake up or whatever, it's a tournament, it's wide open, and we're not going to be using. I think you said it, or maybe William, somebody said it on the show this last week. That term blue blood, throw it out the window, man. North Carolina last year played for the whole thing, was preseason number 1, and this year doesn't even make the tournament and scoffs at the mere thought of going to the NIT. Winthrop, we don't do that here at the Peninsular Club. Bo, I love it. And the TV ratings are low. They missed out on a great Final Four.
They really did a lot of buzzer beaters in that thing. Of course, Fairleigh Dickinson beating Virginia. The one over 16 in a couple of games. And amazingly, Robin Williams, people are doing. William knows this too. When you're in college, you have time to do this. Out of the 20 million brackets submitted that ESPN channel, 37 people had that Final Four, and of course, several did 100 brackets each. William, but it was really a fantastic tournament. And Connecticut beat everybody. They played by 13 points, more first team in NCAA history to do that. So, boy, domination.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, so Bo, that's the statistic. William, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. And I just wanted to point out that this is just a fun fact, but 4 out of 6 of my brackets that I entered a group in, I got first.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Here you go, William.
Yeah,
I did 2, and Audrey and Delta the dog did 1. But my sidelines, when I did have UConn playing Duke. But, man, I'll tell you why I love Jay Wright. In 2016 and 2018, I got first and second in the office pool. It was I won a lot of widgets for that, And listen, Jay Wright needs to be back in coaching. And William, keep your eyes on him. You're starting to see this trend of a coach gets out for a year or 2, or Chris Beard, he got out, but he got back in quickly. Jay Wright at some SEC school is going to make you an offer you can't refuse. The Godfather. Watch out for Jay Wright to come back. But William, as you're continuing to write, and we see more and more, and we're so blessed on this show to have great writers, great guests, because it ain't about me. It's about the people that come on here with us. It's a team every time we do it. William, so far to this point, what story have you written that you've seen come true? There may be more than one.
What do you mean by come true? Like,
Well, like you wrote about something. You ever written an opinion piece, or are you just writing on stories where you
I
say,
just write on stories. I haven't written
okay,
an opinion
okay.
piece. So I don't think that there's an opinion section for that, but I don't think we can write opinion pieces on sports.
Yeah. Well, you'll get there eventually where you'll write your columns and all. But, and I'm saying this, all this gloom and doom talk out there, it's easy to get caught up in all the negativity. But I'm saying, whether it's NIL, the portal, and everything, William, the term, the free market is everything. And you said that's the lowest viewership ever for a Final Four, for a national championship game. Did the women at 9.9 million outdraw the men this year? Okay, it didn't. But get ready. Yes, get used to this. Now, here's my comparison. Here's a cool story. Bo, what do you think? Right.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, the 14 million to 9.9, it was kind of a switcheroo there or whatever. And then we had trash talk and symbols in the women's game. Someone commented the other day, said the men have been doing it for years. They just didn't get caught on camera with it or whatever, too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I just like to see sportsmanship, but I'm going to say this, William, here's the story for you. And Bo may agree or disagree, so jump in with the professor. We got about a minute from a break, but look at this. We went from 351 guys to 363 teams that were eligible to make it to the field of 68. We had Emily Dickinson College, where Fawn Leibowitz died tragically in a kiln explosion. Fairleigh Dickinson, whatever it is. What are you majoring in? Huh? What are you majoring in? Primitive cultures. Okay. What a waste. But think about that. Fairleigh Dickinson beat Virginia. Remember, University of Maryland, Baltimore County beat Virginia. They've lost in the last 5 years to a 16 and a 15 seed. And in the middle of that, they've won a national championship. William, I'll just say this. Here's a story. The excitement of March Madness. Now think about that from a 4 to a 12-team playoff in college football. You think we're going to see that level of excitement with fans from all over the country and everywhere in between?
Yes, I do. I really think we will.
Okay. We're going to expand on that. You didn't sound excited about it. So we're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk about it. But when we come back, we're going to get ready to rumble, rumbleboxinggym.com right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
William Halliday, Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, wisely advised me during the break. I made a terrible error. Purdue was beaten by Fairleigh Dickinson.
That's right. Yeah.
Or as our good friend Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com calls them, Perdon't. As Franz said, the Big Ten has 14 teams, but they'll get 17 bids to the NCAA tournament. Look, Penn State was in the tournament this year. I remember my dad goes, boy, hell, I didn't know they even had a basketball team. That's a short book, is Penn State basketball history. I'm curious if Penn State's ever had an NBA player. I'm not sure if they have. William, yeah, you're right. Fairleigh Dickinson, a 15, was it a 16 or a 15?
16.
It was 16. Yeah. So that's the second time the last 5 years we've had a 16 beat a 1. Guys, I think where we're going, we go from a 4 to a 12 team. I think it was Lee Fitting or Reese Davis, one of ESPN, said, when we go from a 4 to a 12 team, think about in the South how myopic we are. We're focused on Southern football in November. And they're trying to get us to watch a game like Arizona State and Washington in the Pac-12. Well, when you go to a 12-team playoff, I'm going to throw this to you, Bo, and then William. Suddenly in November, everybody in that top 20, 25 teams thinks they're going to the playoffs. What's wrong with that? I'm not saying water it down. Mm-hmm. And I'm not all about all this, let's include everybody and make everybody feel good, love you. Get out of here. You got to earn it. But think about it. In the 9 years we've had a college football playoff, 14 schools out of the 131 that are eligible to make it have made it. Mm-hmm. And you hear the term, they're fatigued with the same teams over and over. Bo, you hear that? And someone said on the show last week, one of our guests, they like the underdog in the NCAA field of 68 until we get to about the Elite Eight. Then they want the Blue Bloods. You know what? I want the best. I want the best teams out there. Bo, agree?
Hey, I totally. And it really, the conference the conference championship games are going to be so much more important now. I mean, you're going to, they'll have, they haven't made it totally configured. And I hope they keep some of the bowl games. Love to see the Liberty Bowl be part of that. 12-team playoff. That'd be with the tradition there, the Cotton Bowl. And the Cotton Bowl's been in the New Year's Six, but it's going to be so much more intriguing. And boy, there'll be the 13 and 14 teams will be barking like the 69 and 70 teams in the NCAA tournament. But boy, it's really going to lead to some great finishes to seasons.
I think so. And William, you hear where we're going with this? And I agree with you on the Liberty Bowl. William, you've been to the Liberty Bowl. I've been to 38 Liberty Bowls. I went to my 38th one this year, Arkansas and Kansas. Hell of a game. And Harold Grader, Steve Earhart, and the Liberty Bowl team, they put 58, close to 60,000. And remember what they had to compete with. Memphis had been hit by a really bad winter storm. And people were worried there wasn't going to be any water. You couldn't flush the toilets at the Liberty Bowl. People were putting all kind of stuff out there. They overcame that, and that place was packed. It was incredible. But, William, are you a favor? Are you against it? Are you for it? Are you against it, going from a 4 to a 12-team playoff?
I'm against. I'm for a 12-team playoff. Now, I obviously don't want to see it expand past that. That'd just be too much for me. I'm for it just because I think that all five power conference champions should be in it. That's the start. So it should for me, it should obviously be past 4. And then you should have some teams after that to be in it, I believe. I mainly believe that because it gives Auburn and Tennessee a better chance of getting in there. But I think it's good for football just because you don't have the same 4 teams going at it each year, because you see like Alabama's one of them, obviously. Then you got Ohio State. Those 2 teams are practically going in there almost every year. And then it's always an SEC or Big Ten team to me winning the whole thing. And I just think there needs some chances. Now, I don't necessarily want to see a championship like Georgia and TCU probably again. That wasn't as fun for me just to watch them completely blow them out. But I do think it gives everybody a chance to maybe create some big upset over Georgia, and I think it'll make it harder to win a national championship.
Yeah, and Bo, the TCU won 5 or 6 games where they had to come from behind. But I don't think anybody saw the public beheading that we saw when Georgia took out. Wow. What is that? Smoked salmon, poached eggs, capers, cream cheese on a bagel. That looks really good. That's what you got to love when you over here at the farm and you got members from Lake Charles, Louisiana, like Tanner Smith, the most un-Cajun name other than Another one of our members from Lake Charles, Blake Kleinpeter. I mean, I think about seeing Blake at the old Hofbrau house in München. And, but anyway, I digress. Both of y'all are talking about, Bo, you're not going to water down college football.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it does if you go from a 4 to a 12-team playoff. You in theory, you can make it more difficult because competition is the spice of life. Okay. You look at people who were born into fabulous wealth. If they never worked, it was like they were born on third base and think they hit a triple. Okay. I love the competition. In the case of Auburn, the way Brian Harsin was doing things, they were not recruiting the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The closed for business sign has been taken down at Auburn. They're back in the mix. William, you got to be liking that. I want to switch gears and ask you this, Bo. Hugh Freeze has been talking about it this week, about spring games, Auburn playing Troy, UAB playing Alabama. You could see Tennessee playing Tennessee State for a spring game or whatever. Everybody's talking about that. You know who came up with that idea in April 1980? And William, this is an assignment I'm going to ask you to do. Go up in the archives of the Auburn Plainsman. I believe it was April of 1980. Former Auburn coach Doug Barfield, who's still there and goes to church in Auburn with our good friend Jason Caldwell of Inside the Auburn Tigers, said this in April of 1980. I don't see why Auburn can't play Kentucky or Ole Miss or LSU for our spring game. I think there'd be a lot of interest in it because, that was back, y'all, when they had a 10-team SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And you played those same 6 teams every year. And he talked about it 43 years ago. Go look that up, William. Doug Barfield came up with that idea from Oak Grove, Alabama, Southern Miss grad who's living back. He keeps the string alive, Bo Carter. William, this is another great story for you. Do a story about all the former Auburn coaches. I think Gene Chizik, I know he does, still has a house in Auburn, although he's back in Chapel Hill. Every Auburn coach, Terry Bowden, though, lives in Monroe because he's coaching at ULM, but all the rest of them have all come to live back in Auburn. William, even if they've been fired or whatever, so it's a pretty amazing story. But, Bo, do you like that? Having, Mississippi State could play Southern Miss in a spring game. That's another tailgate opportunity. Why not?
I'd love it. The coaches, I think, get a little bit squirrely as far as having to have a game preparation. And they want to go out there and some of them are like the old school guys, Rob. They want to kind of beat each other to death. And you got 6 months to recuperate from that knee injury. No, pardon me, it's not that bad. But no, it would be fan. The one that I'd love to see was be Alabama versus UAB. Since they refused to play each other for 60 years or whatever. No, but it's a wonderful idea, and actually got to work with Doug. Doug Barfield was offensive coordinator at Mississippi State for 1 year after he left Auburn, and I think Mississippi State actually won the game, so a little bit of a redemption there. But one of the nicest people, very very innovative, and just it's always tough to replace a legend like Suge Jordan. So he did things with dignity, and I'm glad to hear he's doing well in Auburn. Please tell him hello.
Yeah, and Jason's gonna mention this to him. But William, that's a cool story for you to do. William, would you like the idea? You could see, let's say Tennessee, for instance, playing Southern Cal for a spring game, and what Freeze is saying is you reduce your chance of injuries 50%, and quarterbacks would be off limits, obviously. But the fans, could you imagine, William? If UAB were to play Alabama in the spring and beat Alabama, I mean, William, what kind of storylines? Give me a lead story on that one.
Bama didn't know what hit them when they played the spring game.
I think that would be that would be interesting. But I want to look too. Looking at college baseball right now, we got a few minutes left. The SEC is so tough. And Bo, from being at Mississippi State, and William, you watch Auburn baseball, lost last night 9-5 to Texas A&M. This is just a grinder, just a sausage grinder of a league. But Bo, Mississippi State is at 1-8 or now 1-9. It just blows my mind 2 years ago, they win a national championship. Ole Miss has one conference game coming into this weekend series. And then you've got Arkansas, you got LSU, you got A&M, Auburn, Alabama. And look in the East, Vanderbilt, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky. You can get to the College World Series coming out of this league with a sub 500 conference record.
You really can. When your Mississippi State was in the play-in game, I think in the late or early 2000s, and then got to the NCAA World Series as tough as that. It's all in scheduling and luck. And boy, it's as you mentioned, Mississippi State and Ole Miss started at 0-12 combined this year in the SEC. Just mainly for having playing tough games on the road, and just boy, it is it's by far the number one conference in the country, no doubt.
William, when you watch baseball and you played all the sports, coming up, why is it so hard? You've got guys now, and guys on the baseball teams, and friends of yours probably play in college. It's so hard to find pitchers. Is it because of the demand on your body, the mental part of it, or because you don't get to play that much? Because if you're a left fielder, you play every game pretty much. If you're a pitcher, you work once a week. Is that it? Why are we not developing the number of pitchers we need, or the number of shooting guards in basketball, or the number of offensive linemen in football? Any ideas?
I just know, from all I can say is I know from my experience as a pitcher back in high school, just the soreness of my arm, just the toll it took on my body whenever I pitched, it was a lot, and just you had to go through constant treatment for that stuff. I'd assume something like that. I can't really tell you exactly why we're not seeing that many pitchers out there that we can rotate in. I don't really know.
Well, I think you just said it, is the wear and tear on your body. And like that's why when we talk to like Kevin Skarbinski, coachsafely.org, and Dana Marquez, director of equipment operations, William, that's a guy you need to do a story on at Auburn. He's been there since 2005. Helmetfitting.com, Carbon Tech shoulder pads. Dana started 4 or 5 companies on the side of being director. What they're putting into safety and all. Go back not too many years ago, and let's face it, who takes everybody to practice when they're growing up? Mom does. Okay, you better work with the moms for the future of college sports, football, soccer, boys, girls, whatever. Bo, when you're writing for the Baseball Writers Association of America, and I'm just curious, have you written stories? I mean, is that a big national topic? Where are the pitchers? Because we're having to go to the Dom Rep, to Puerto Rico, to Venezuela to find them.
Yeah, 2 things. William hit the nail on the head there too. A lot of youngsters are playing select baseball or club baseball from the time or travel ball as they call it, from like when they're 8 or 9 years old. They're pitching all year round. They don't get a break. They're playing college high school football on Friday nights, and have a 10 a.m. game on Saturday. And then, like you're saying, and the other thing, Major League Draft, if there's a left-hander that throws 80 miles an hour or above, he's going to be in the first 5 rounds of the draft with real big money these days. So I think it's diluted the college stuff. But you've got guys like Paul Skeens, who transferred from LSU from Air Force to LSU. Yeah. Guy's got like an 0.88 ERA and 7-0 record. So you've got some standouts out there, but just they're few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, and it's getting harder to do it. But let me say, it is Good Friday. It's Easter weekend, and we'll be back with you tomorrow on the College Roundtable. Got a lot to talk about. Loran Smith will kick off with us. Dave Tompkins from the Masters. We're getting into spring games. William, A-Day tomorrow at Auburn. You're going to see why, when you go to that A-Day game, why we need to play and make those games a bigger deal, because it's a glorified practice. And you're going to go there. And I remember the highlight of A-Day in all my time at Auburn. One time, Bo Jackson, I think it's right before the NFL draft, he challenged all the kids that wanted to race him for like a 50-yard dash race. And he gave them like a 25-yard head start. And that was exciting. I mean, to see something like that. But, hey, William, tomorrow they're going to unveil a statue to Frank Thomas, the big hurt. So that'll be big. So, but lots going on all over the place. And folks, we're going to head back over to Wynne, Arkansas, and we've got the link we've put out on Twitter and all. Arkansas, the folks over in Wynne, Arkansas, it's where we're closest to. We're going to go over there, and the generosity of the people that we know, the Cherry Farm, and just friends of ours like Maury Gaston, Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, so many people, Neil Johnson. We're going to get out there, go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Do it out of the goodness of your heart, because most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And folks, we are blessed beyond belief to have smart people on this show, and also great sponsors like rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. William, tell all your friends at Union and McLean, they're opening April 17th. Our good friend Ann Camp Lee, 24 punching bags, 24 weight benches and sets, grueling 45-minute workouts. And after you get through, you're right there in Midtown within walking distance of a lot of great restaurants and bars. But remember, work out first, okay? William, remember what your homework assignment is. Find out in the archives. Doug Barfield said it, April 1980, 43 years ago, before anybody else ever mentioned it. We ought to start playing spring games against other teams. I think there'll be a lot of interest in that going forward. People need to pay attention to that. But look, follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. We'll be back again tomorrow. Again, looking forward to have Loran Smith from the Masters. Who's your pick to win the Masters, Bo?
Sam Bennett from Texas A&M. He shot it 4 under yesterday.
Amateur.
He's an amateur.
Yeah, William, you got a pick?
Brooks Koepka.
Yep.
All right. Brooks Koepka. We're doing it. Oh, Dave Cody, that's his pick at the club out in Bellingham, Washington as well. Until then, folks, have a great day. It is Good Friday. Remember that. We're out of here. See you tomorrow.